I can meow exactly like a cat. It is the first thing on my resume because it is very important to me.
So you have to do it.
And I will. Oh,
Yes.
trust me. And I have different like levels of it. So just
Hi, kitty cats. Welcome back to another episode of Tails and Tassels, the show where you pounce into the lives of burlesque and nightlife performers, their craft, their cats, and how the two worlds collide. I'm your host, Gemma Smith. By day, I'm a manager at a kitten nursery, and by night, I host the Catbaret, New York City's cat-themed variety show. Today's guest is the incredibly talented actor, storyteller, and tarot reader, Neysa Lozano. With a background in avant-garde theater, Neysa brings a unique perspective to performance, weaving together art, intuition, and storytelling. We dive into her creative journey, the role tarot plays in her work, and her heartfelt storytelling piece at Catbaret about her beloved cat Buddy. Neysa also delights us with her spot-on cat impressions, can't wait for you to hear, and shares stories about her two very special feline companions, Buddy and Midnight. They actually remind me a lot of the dynamic between my own two cats, Lionel and Luna. It's a conversation full of passion, artistry, and of course, cats. She's obsessed with them. So let's dive into the conversation. Thanks so much for chatting with me today, Neysa.
yeah, thank you for having me.
So I first met you at Caveat for our
Mhm.
April show. You were working there and you were like, I love cats and I'm a performer. And we had you at the Meowloween show. So to get started, could you share with our listeners a little bit about your background and journey as a performer?
Yeah, of course. So I went to NYU for my undergrad, which was a choice. Just NYU is very expensive. And but I through that got to work with the grad acting program because I took that on as a work study and eventually worked there full time. So I got to take classes with a lot of really incredible teachers. I did like movement classes, voice classes, clowning, and so that kind of expanded me in ways that I really, really loved. And then when I kind of started on my own, I did a lot of avant-garde theater. My favorite of the shows that I did, well, I have two. I did a puppet show called War with Newts. Highly recommend checking out. There's a podcast of that now too, so I would recommend checking that out because it kind of gives you the idea of the book that it's based on. And then I also did a zombie version of Awake and Sing called Wake Sing. So avant-garde theater was kind of my bread and butter for a while, and then come the pandemic, there was less opportunity for that for obvious reasons. And that's when I kind of switched to writing my own stuff, and I'm hopefully working on like a one woman show and like a couple of different things. So we'll see how that all pans out.
You had me at zombie. I feel like I saw a R and J and Z once. It was like Romeo and Juliet's and zombies. So I have to check out. You said it's called Wake Sing.
Yes, yes. It was put up forever ago. It was with this director called Jesse Friedman. He's incredible, but he loves to do these very like avant-garde kind of pulled from everywhere pieces. And so we did Awake and Sing, but like the first act we were coming out of the ground. It was mirroring the zombie movie. Oh, the very famous zombie trilogy, Dawn of the Dead, all of that. So in that, you would see the triplet of the zombies where they first come to life and they're just kind of mindless, and then they start to replicate their human behavior, but they still don't have emotions. And in the end of the trilogy, they start to find their emotional self again. And he mirrored that with Wake and Sing, which is about coming to the realization of like being oppressed by capitalism. It was brilliant and also made no sense. The reviews on it were terrible and I loved every minute.
Yeah, it sounds like a very unique experience. And I love that whole like evolution of the zombies. So thank you for sharing that. You're the first person to share an avant-garde zombie theater piece.
What? That is shocking. How is it not just a common thing?
No, I love that you mentioned you started writing, you're creating your own work. We have had a lot of artists on the podcast who have shared with me that, you know, when opportunities seemed less, they found a lot of empowerment in creating their own work. And so for Catbaret, you wrote and performed a storytelling piece about your cat. For our listeners who weren't there, I was wondering if you could share a little bit about your inspiration and a bit about that piece.
Of course. So that piece, it is many, many names, but it's about my relationship with my cat, Buddy. Buddy, when I first adopted him, was pretty feral, and over time, I was able to help him kind of become the most cuddly thing in the world, and I adore him now with all my heart. And I mirrored that. So my idea for this piece came when I had just gotten out of an emotionally abusive relationship, and I had realized in the process of that, I was like, well, why can't he just trust that I know what I'm doing? I know what I'm talking about. It worked with my cat. So why, like, and so that kind of stemmed that. And it was an exploration of my own, like, obsessive need to, like, help and try and, like, support other people, and how it comes somewhat at my own detriment, and how it's a different thing when it's, your pet, your loved one, because they're dependent on you in a very different way. And yeah, and so that's where that piece kind of came from, and it's gone through many different changes, but it's one that I really love.
Oh, I loved it too. And I think it really resonated with our audience, talking about adopting a cat who had more, perhaps we call it in the shelter world, under socialized. We call them also invisicats, because sometimes they hide when they get into an adoptive home. We call them lion tamers for our kittens who are fosters. So yeah, so I think that really resonated with our audience. And how do your cats, because I believe you have 2 cats, right?
I do.
Okay, and we're going to dive into your cat mom journey and more about your cats in a moment. But how do your cats, or cats in general, inspire or influence your art or performances?
Oh my goodness. Cats in general have kind of been a massive part of me for my entire life. I got my first cat when I was like 10. And I was obsessed with her, but she ended up kind of bonding with my mom, which was hard for me, and it's okay. But the general gist of this is I would just, like, copy them. I started to, like, I can meow exactly like a cat. It is the first thing on my resume because it is very important to me. Um,
So you have to
I
do it.
and I will. Oh,
Yes.
trust me. And I have different like levels of it. So just but like I started dressing up like cats, just, during the chibi era. Like I would go into work at a 9 to 5 with, like, cat ears. And and like just being able to, whenever anything would come up where I could embody a cat, where I could, like, whatever, I was obsessed with it. And then when I started writing, I was very inspired, particularly by Buddy, I think, because the journey he and I had together was so intense, and, like, we are so now deeply bonded, that I have written a couple of pieces about him, actually.
I love that. Okay, I didn't know. I knew you loved cats, and I knew, like, you loved Buddy and your cats, but I didn't realize the extent of it from childhood and wearing the cat ears to a 9 to 5, and it wasn't even like a 9 to 5 in animal related field. I think cat ears are cute. Like, I wear them to a concert. Yeah.
I do too. I really wanted, there's some that react to your emotional state, and I want them so bad.
Okay, so anyone listening, this would be a good birthday present for you. Any of your
A
friends.
100%. 100%.
So is now a good time to hear your meows, I wonder?
Yes, I was gonna say. Okay. So to copy my cat Buddy, he's like, ow, 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 ow. And then I've had other cats that are like, so Midnight goes,
That's really good. I would believe those are real cats if I wasn't looking at you.
it's thank you. And then my angry cat sound, and then I'm trying to think, kittens.
So
um
good.
yeah, I have multiple, and yeah, it's interesting. I didn't realize that having my earbuds in, I was like, oh, that changes the way I hear myself. But yes, I will just copy cats. I love to meow like them, and I love just like, yeah. And whenever I get stressed or anything, I meow sometimes. It's an obsession.
I'm here for it. And, sometimes I have to look up. I was trying to find like sound effects that if ever I have to, when I edit my podcast episodes, if there's like a change of subject abruptly, I usually just add a little bit of our music. But I was trying to like add a meow, and there's all this stock like audio of meows. You could do that. You could have yours up there. There's got to be a
I
way to
would
get your
love that
meows.
so much. You have no idea. I love it. I love making meowing sounds.
And you can call your cats. Sometimes I play videos of cats meowing when I'm in bed and I want my two cats to come in bed. It's like a thing. So you don't even have to play the sound on your phone. You could just like do it and your cats will be like, oh, a meow.
Yep, yep. I'll just be like, ow, and they'll just like.
I love that. So you touched on, okay, you have a couple storytelling pieces inspired by Buddy. Are there any other acting pieces or anything else that you have inspired by cats or any other performances you've done? It's
Yes,
okay.
so there's a YouTube video that I did a while ago for my friends have a bi-monthly being every other month performance space for people to put up new and emerging work called Undiscovered Countries. But I did something for that where I was a superhero whose only skills that she could talk to one cat.
Oh, okay. That's an interesting superhero skill. That's really great for this podcast. People would love that skill to talk to their cat.
Right, right. But it was just she couldn't talk to animals, just the one cat. But she was trying to join like a superhero league because she was like, no, but it's so cool. And then not cat related, but I also have axolotls, and I have a piece about it's called How to Take Care of a Sick Axolotl, which has the most views because people think that it's actually informative, and it's not. It was me dealing with loss and feeling out of control during the pandemic, trying to save this axolotl.
So we're gonna have to link some of these in the show notes. I'll follow up with you so that folks can watch. And I feel so ignorant. I love animals. I work in animal welfare. Can you tell me more about an axolotl?
Yes, so they are salamanders that never make it out of the aquatic phase. Um, they're having a moment right now in pop culture. So like they're pretty popular because it looks like they're always smiling. They always like and they
Oh,
have the little like skills on gills on the side of their head. Yeah, and so I have two of them and they're so cute.
they sound so cute. Okay, I'm gonna have to look these up again. I think I've seen exactly what you're talking about when you said they look like they're smiling. And in a
Mhm.
moment, I will ask you more about how they get along with Buddy and Midnight. But first, I definitely wanted us to mention that you're a tarot card reader. Yeah, which is fascinating. So, could you just tell us a little bit about your background in tarot card reading and where folks, perhaps in New York City, could get a reading from you?
Yeah, of course. So I started reading 12 years ago now. Basically, I had been around it my entire life. My mom is pagan, so I've been kind of part of that world. And when I went to college, my senior year, they offered us tarot readings as a like, hey, you're out in the world, here's something for you. And my reading was terrible. The person told me that I was cursed. She said if I paid $75, she would reverse that curse. And she said it was my grandmother of all people. And I was like, certainly of the people who cursed me, it would not have been my grandmother. And I left there just so mad because I was like, I know that she got paid real money because it was NYU. And like, I know that I could do this better. So I started reading and realized that like the cards spoke to me in a way that they like it was just a very unique experience where I like understood it beyond just what was in the book. I then did a tarot performance piece like years later and offered readings as my cast gift.
Mm.
And from then on out, I have been doing it professionally because I realized I really liked it and felt there was something there.
Yeah, it sounds like you really have a passion for it and a skill for it. And I know that you also do tarot readings somewhere in the city.
Mhm.
And can you let us know when and where? Because I really want to come and get a reading from you. I've never had a tarot reading.
Yes, of course. So I read tarot every Tuesday at a place called Employees Only. It's in the Village. It's like a 6 minute walk from Stonewall. Yeah, that's right. Good job. It's like a 6 minute walk from there. So that's the area. It's called Employees Only. It's set up to look kind of like a psychic, like a psychic space, and then in the back is the bar. It's really cool. Every day they have a different tarot reader there, but I read on Tuesdays in particular. And I was saying, if anyone mentions this podcast, I would love to be able to give them a discount on the tarot reading at the very least, because it's all just for me. So yeah, and I love being able to do that because sometimes you really get to like make a connection or uncover people in this really intense and beautiful way. It's my favorite thing.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I definitely want to check it out. And I'm going to be, if my own friends, Karina, Ziva, they're cat moms and they are very interested in tarot. What time on Tuesdays?
Yes, so I'm there from 6 to 11. I can
Okay.
stay later. So sometimes I will stay until midnight, sometimes 1 o'clock. Um, but definitely between 6 and 11, I will be there.
Wonderful. What a great weekly gig with something that you're passionate about. And speaking of tarot cards, I'm curious, are cats inherently tied to tarot or mysticism? Is there a unique connection you've found between your love of cats and your practice?
Um, so I don't, well, I think cats are inherently tied in just in the way that they kind of exist with us. In a very similar way, I would say that a lot of nature, natural, like animals are, but there is something that is particularly you're synced up with a cat in a different way. I think just because, not to be the person who's like, cats are so intuitive, but they really are. And whenever you're around them, it's like being around a teenager, and that like that they want you and you want to be with them, but also they are fine in their own space, and I love that for them. So there is inherently some sort of a connection to like the mysticism and the unknown, but I also would say that like that could be true of anything that you have this kind of intense connection with. But yeah, I would say that there's a reason cats are known to be your familiar, and it's because there is something that is inherently there. That being said, whenever I do try and do something that's like spiritual or witchy in my own space, I do often have to lovingly put my cats in another room because they love to be a part of it, and they will knock stuff over, like sometimes when I'm reading tarot, just right on top of it. I'm like, oh, you just don't want me to read this, okay.
Yeah, that's like when my cat just wants to sit on my laptop when I'm trying to work. So I
Exactly.
completely understand. And you know what?
Exactly.
I would just love to have you at I'm going to do another Meowloween Catbaret this fall. I would love to have you read tarot. It could be an act. It could be however you want to do it for the show. Like, and you could have an audience member come on stage, but I think that would be really cool.
I would love that. Also, I have cat tarot cards. There are multiple decks, and there are other cat tarot cards. These are a little bit more comical in their journey, but I really love them because when you read specifically with comical cards, they give you a harsher reading than the other ones because they're really trying to prove to you. They're like, no, no, I know what I'm talking about, but they're so cute.
Oh, they're so cute. It says Page of Cups and I think the cat's going in the toilet and this
Yeah,
one
and the
says the
High
High Priest.
Priestess.
Oh yeah, they are my girl cat. She is the High Priestess.
Yes, same with mine. When I was going through a particularly hard time, she would sleep at the top of my head, and I just felt like you're absorbing all of that energy for me.
Those are so cute. Yes, you could use those at the show.
I would adore that, and I would love to do something over there. So please, that sounds perfect.
Okay, yes, listeners, you have to stay tuned and remember you can watch virtually if you're not in New York City. And so now's the part of the episode where we're going to talk more about your cats. We've heard you mention them, Buddy and Midnight. So can you share a little more about their origin stories, how they came into your life?
Of course. So Buddy was, I mean, he's part of my storytelling. So anyone who did see the show for the previous Meowaline would know that this was my journey with him. Is that I got him at the ASPCA. He was like they had said to me, well, you need to be a bit more of an experienced cat owner. And I was like, I'm experienced. And then I realized pretty immediately what they meant. He had his whole room to himself, which was like unheard of. It was meant for 3 to 4 cats, and it was just him. But he was so beautiful and so loving, and he had this energy. Like even now, he was scratching at the door just a little bit ago. So sorry if that gets picked up. Um, Even now he like doesn't want to be alone. He's very much bonded to me and very protective of me in a beautiful way. I absolutely adore him. So I am very glad that he was the one that we ended up going home with. He just required trust because the poor thing had been sent back and forth between the vet and, or not the vet, the pound, and then the ASPCA, and anybody who took him home immediately put him back because he was so hard to take, like not take care of, but like he was so prone to like bite and attack because he was defensive, and
He
it
was
was really
scared.
heartbreaking. Yeah, exactly. So that was his journey, and there came a point with him when I like kind of learned what like his eyes would change shape, and I knew that that meant he was upset. And I learned that like in those moments, if I just took him into another space and closed the door, opened the door, he would be fine. But I had to like remove him from the immediate space or else I became prey. So once we got to a place where I realized he just had a bunch of energy and needed a companion, that's when I was like, oh, we should get a second cat. And I was very lucky that there was this woman in the neighborhood who'd overheard me talking to my partner at the time about it and was like, I have cats. And we were like, oh, okay.
Works out.
Yeah, I was like, yeah. So we went and we went over to her place, and she had a bunch. But the one that she was comfortable giving us was Midnight. Now, the only thing I do feel bad for Midnight because she is like this big and very fluffy. So she's like a living cat toy to like Buddy. Um, but weirdly, they became pretty friendly. Like Midnight is still pretty standoffish with him for understandable reasons. But he like even though he like chases her and they play with each other, he's very cautious to never like break skin. He's never like made her bleed. And also he like lets her eat first, which I always thought was really sweet.
That is sweet.
Yeah, yeah, I really loved that. And now, like I said, they're not like she's still pretty standoffish. He loves her, but she's like, which again, I support her for. She can climb and he's not as good at it, so she loves up spaces, and we have a couple of like up spaces for her to nicely hide away. But when he comes over in the morning, every morning when I wake up, he comes for like cuddles and pets, and then she'll come for like cuddles and pets. And that's the moment that it's like we're this really lovely, happy family, and they'll like touch noses, and I'm just like,
Oh my gosh, that's so, so beautiful. It's very similar. Your story's a little similar, but my cats don't do that. I have a male cat, Lion-O, who is more kind of could be a little feisty. You have to read his body language. It sounds like you read your cat buddy's body language very well. And then I have a more shy female cat, and they don't really get along, but it's interesting that Buddy actually loves her. Even though he was more fearful with humans, but he gained your trust, he was like welcoming to another cat. Um,
yeah.
what's their age difference?
Um, Buddy is, let's see, Buddy is 11 and Midnight is 7. So it's a 4-year age difference.
That's pretty good though. They're both like grown cats. at this point? Or how long? So now how long have you had them?
I've had Midnight for about 6 years and Buddy for 10. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I have 11 and 10 their ages as well. So similar time of life. And I really like that you mentioned Midnight likes to be up high. So you make sure to give her spaces up high. Because oftentimes cats will be like, I think Jackson Galaxy says like tree dwellers or bush dwellers. Does Buddy like to have like his cozy spots more down low?
Buddy insists on being wherever we are, like the humans are. Buddy sees no difference in him and us. Like there was a period of time I tried to get him to not go on tables and that just doesn't happen. It's absolutely a no-go. Buddy is on tables because he has to be the strongest thing in the room. He's once taken down a dog and I felt very bad for this poor dog. I took him on vacation to another ex's house and they had dogs and he's like, it's okay, this dog is trained to be around cats, it'll be fine. And they like met each other and they like touched noses and that's when Buddy was like, I got this, and he swiped at the poor thing. And the dog ran and hid and Buddy just plopped right where the dog was standing. And then he started sleeping in his dog bed and I was like, oh Buddy.
Oh my gosh. Buddy's like, no, I am claiming this dog's territory,
Mm-hmm.
basically.
He was like, haha, you think you're the strongest thing here. There was they had like a table and the father of that family kept trying to keep Buddy off the table. And I was like, he's not gonna do that. Just so you know, he's not.
I'm with you. Like, okay, my cats want to be on the table at the kitchen counter. It's fine. I mean, I keep things clean, okay, people? But like,
Yeah,
they're cats and they're clean. Cats are pretty clean as well. And so you just wipe things down, let them live their life and be on those tables.
exactly. And it just felt like an unnecessary battle. Like, look, Buddy just wants to be one of us. We are the same in his mind. So just let him sit here.
Yeah, and it's a nice thing. He's comforting. He's being comforted by being near you. And you
Hmm.
mentioned a really special ritual, which is in the morning they both come to you for cuddles and their nose touches. I was curious if you have any other daily routines or special rituals with your cats.
I mean, that one is the sweetest. Buddy, also, whenever I work, he always has to be on this side of me. It's like a very particular thing. He always has to be on my left side. He refuses to ever go on the right, even though there's always more space on the right. And then sometimes Midnight will try and take that same space. One thing that I think is very cute is Midnight was, because we got her very young. I got her when she was about 6 to 9 months, like very early into her life. And so she was very much taught how to behave by Buddy. So she's the most anxious cat in the world.
Mm.
She just exists with a heart attack. I like to say that her meow sounds like somebody is breaking up with her, but in a very public place, so she has to hold it together. That's the like.
That's a very good description. I knew exactly what you meant when you're like in a public place.
Always just like, Midnight, are you okay? She's like, but so Buddy trained her to be very social because he's a very social cat. Despite the fact that he attacks very quickly, he loves being around people, loves being the center of attention. So she like greets me at the door. Both of them do. They'll greet me at the door when I come home, and they always have to like be around me or my partner. Like they just need to like exist with us. But Midnight gets scared at the drop of a hat. So she'll like come and sit right next to me, and then like something will crinkle across the room and she'll scatter.
Oh, it sounds like with Buddy, he's very social, loves people, like you said, but you can read his body language if he's getting overstimulated and might attack. Like you just have to know their body language.
Hmm.
And with Midnight, she sounds like my black cat Luna, was on the streets till 3 months old. So she's very fearful and she always runs away. She's very sweet, but she just runs away all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, yes. But then she's also tiny and cute and very social. And so everybody wants to pet her and she's just terrified of everything.
Does she like it more on her own terms? Like if she comes to you, it's when she comes to you kind of thing?
Yeah, she prefers, yes, but the problem is she'll come to strangers. Like, so strangers will come in and she'll be like, "Oh, hi," and then they'll go to pet her and she'll scatter. And I'm like, "Yeah, she's terrified of everything." But yes, for her, it's much more on her terms. As she gets more comfortable with you, she'll be more comfortable with petting. And also, like, honestly, if you feed her, she is enamored with you. You feed her more than once, you are her favorite person.
Nice. Yeah. And what are their favorite treats?
Buddy loves, there's like this meat stick that Purina cat or whatever
Ooh.
makes. Oh my goodness, he loves that. I have never heard him snarl the way he did when eating
Oh.
that. He was like, I was like, okay. And I always have to, if I give them treats, I have to separate them because Buddy will just eat all the treats. He
Oh, totally.
loves treats. He will knock her aside. Midnight very dainty with eating her treats. She like needs to sniff it, needs to deduce if it's what she wants. Buddy will just gobble everything up. But then with the cat food, I use Purina Pro, I believe. And I've tried other stuff and they either refuse to eat it or it upsets their stomach. So that's the only thing. And I've had to like learn and be okay with that. And that Midnight loves. She was the first few months of her life, she only ate wet food. And so she loves that one and she'll like eat the whole can herself.
Oh, it's so good when you find food that they love because you're right. Like, we can't switch food up a lot on cats. It messes up their stomach. Or, like, well, my one is food allergies, my other one's on prescription. So I have to add in another food that he likes. So it's definitely like a good thing when your cats like your food because they're eating the same food. So,
I know, I feel so bad. I like
yeah.
want to switch it up. That's how I found this out is I like went out and I bought like fancy cat food because I was like, "Oh, let's just give them other options," because
Yeah.
I know personally I get bored eating the same thing every day. And I was like, "Let's do that for my cats." And I was like, "Oh, no. They are creatures of habit."
Yeah, completely. Like my cats will have bad diarrhea if I run out of their food and then I try something else. So I
Yep.
hear you. Now, I was curious, you mentioned earlier when you're doing tarot or your creative work, you kind of put your cats in the other room because, of course, cats are cats and they're going to want to get into everything. But have you ever had your cats like incorporated, I don't know, even into like a self tape at home or anything where they've been like part of your project in a way where they're on camera?
Oh, yes, all the time. So like I said, I've done several like YouTube videos where my cats are either the main focus or have made an appearance. I also one time did a monologue to my cats.
Oh, nice. Okay, you're perfect for this podcast.
It was again during the pandemic and they had wanted us, they were like, "Oh, we're just going to put together like a reel of people doing Shakespeare monologues." And I was like, "Well," because there was multiple people that this person was talking to, so I had my cats just kind of stay where they were and I just monologued.
I
Um
love it. I'm going to do a deep dive on your YouTube after this. I should have done it before, but I like learning things about people. I do a little research before, but I don't know. It's fun to also like learn about new things and cat performances.
yeah, no, totally, I understand. But yes, and then of course they appear. I think there have certainly been several audition tapes that haven't gone out because in the middle of it, my cat will either just be like, "Meow," and I'm like, wrong time, or he'll just decide that I'm not paying enough attention to him and he'll like nip at me. So I'll be like, what studied torments? Ow! Ow!
That's so funny. I've done a self tape where my cat decided right then to use the litter box and it was like really loud and I couldn't use it. I thought, oh, maybe not that one.
Yeah. Like, oh well.
Well, it's been so fun learning about all of your art, your craft, your cats, and how those worlds intertwine. Before you leave us, I would love to know if you could share a piece of advice for either fellow performers who have cats or just an advice or tip for cat parents.
I think for cat parents, in particular, it's just you want like, and I think everyone who has a cat knows this because you kind of have to learn this with cats that it's not like, oh, they're my cat, you know, like with a dog, no offense to dogs. You want to like be there, you know, you're like, oh, this is how you behave, this is how you do things. I think with cats, you have to learn from each other. You each like find out your own like quirks and like whatever and how it meshes with each other. It's a much more peer on peer relationship, you know. I love that cats were never actually domesticated. They technically domesticated us. And I feel like that's how your relationship with them goes. And the more that I know that, the easier it is for me to get along with cats. I'm like, anyone who doesn't like cats is someone who probably likes to be very much in charge of a relationship. Again, no offense if somebody, I don't know why you would be listening to this podcast if you don't like cats, but no offense if you don't like cats. And as far as creating work with cats, I mean, I've been very lucky that my cats, particularly Buddy, he's very willing to go along with me in whatever weird thing I do. And so like I've been very lucky in that it hasn't been hard to create with him, or create around him, or create, you know, with this inclusion, because we just want to always be around each other. I feel like I'm talking about him as if he is my partner, and that is because he is.
I get it. I'm obsessed with my cat Lino, and I love Luna too, but like I'm so obsessed with him, so I really relate to you.
Yeah, I told my boyfriend, I was like, listen, we're in a poly relationship with Buddy, where Buddy is my primary, but you're welcome to be here too. um, but it's very much that of like, as far as creating with them, I guess like if you're lucky enough to have a relationship with your cat where they trust you, they will hear you out when you ask them to do things. Like I'm almost positive Buddy understands English, partially because there have been several times that I've said things to him and he has reacted weirdly immediately. But also because when I'm filming things, I'll be like, hey, Buddy, I just need you to stay here for 5 minutes. And he just will be like, you know.
Amazing. You've built so much trust with Buddy. Oh my gosh. And I love your tip about, you know, the kind of symbiotic relationship of cats and humans, and they have trained me when to feed them. I'm maybe not the best example for like new cat parents of setting like feeding times. They let me know when they're hungry, and I trust that they're eating enough. So I always like to say people who don't like cats haven't met the right cat. But you're right that some people may just not be cat people. That's okay. We like the cat people here. I hope they're listening. If you're not a cat person listening, maybe we'll convert you.
Yeah. Come and hang out with my cats. I think that's what every cat person says. It's like, well, but if you meet my cats.
Yeah, exactly. Then you might see. Or foster a cat and you can learn its personality and see if it's the right fit and adopt the cat. Thank you so much for sharing your art and Buddy and Midnight Stories. And for people who want to keep in touch with you, follow you, I'll have it linked in the show notes, but they're going to follow you. You gave me your Instagram before. Can you give it to me one more time?
Yes, of course. So I'm Neysa Lozano on all social media. I did sign language before and I'll do it again. So it's NeysaloZano. Neysa Lozano across the board because I am the only one in the world. Haha.
That's pretty amazing. Oh my gosh, the only one in the world. Okay, so make sure to follow her. Make sure to go to Employees Only for a tarot card reading. Come to Catbaret for Meowloween. Thank you so much for being here, Neysa.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Tails and Tassels. So if you have any questions, comments, or just want to say meow, feel free to send us an email at tailsandtasselspod@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast. Also, join our community on Instagram at Tails and Tassels Pod for more updates and behind-the-scenes fun. See you next time, kitty cats.